Good afternoon. How are you? I've been writing today. I have an appeal that I have to file on Monday, so I'm revising it, and it's kind of fun because we got some good arguments. the I found out in grammar school that I could fill pages. I remember the teacher asked us to write 500 words about something, and I didn't know exactly what that was. And it turned out when I did count the words, I had 1,000, and people in my class were trying to get to 100 or 50 words. So that's held me in good stead ever since. Now, talking about writing good words and doing research, my read on Arizona, and probably you've had the same thought, is that since they came up with nothing to show any corruption, I think what they were doing, or at least this was a secondary, if not the primary reason, is they were collecting information on the voters for the next election. Ever since I either ran in elections myself or ran for others, what I would do is every person I met, I'd shake their hand, talk about the issues, and I'd get their information if they were willing to give it. And then I would myself or have someone else check and see if they were on any of the lists that people were using who identified them as Democrats or Republicans or whatever. And what I found was I would come up with unique names, meaning they weren't on any of these lists. And so it's like an invisible resource that you can use in the election, because you may be the only person talking to them. And I don't mean you can deceive them or anything, but if you had a favorable reaction and nobody else knows of that voter, that's a voter that can change an election in a close election. So I think I did that with some success in the primary I won when I ran for Congress. The general election, I got 95,000 votes, to give you some idea of the numbers, and I just couldn't change to scale. Okay, well, this is a long way around saying that I think that's what Arizona's about. And I think that these other efforts to, quote, audit the vote, I think that's why they're doing it. And you notice they're doing the audits of the Democrats. They're seeing what's going on there. Now, why are they doing that? Are they looking for challenges? Are they looking for ways to encourage or discourage them? They're looking for ways to target them for the election. So don't underestimate the ability of our enemies to do retail political work. Now, in terms of writing, another thing that struck me is there's a bill in the House that was introduced, H.R. 37, stay with me, 55, I think. And it's the Women's Health Protection Act. And the purpose of the bill is to protect a woman's right of choice, to protect a woman's right to an abortion. And obviously that's spurred on by what's happened in the various states, but on top of the list right now are Mississippi and Texas. Texas having the 6-week rule and Mississippi having a 15-week rule, both of which are less than the period allowed by Roe v. Wade. So that's something. Years ago, there was an effort when I was on the Hill to make a bill. Well, the Republicans wanted to make a blastocyte a person, a fecundated ovum, which is ridiculous, okay? And the old joke is, when does somebody become a person? When they register as a Democrat. But that's not what their view was. Their view was to create a false fictional identity for a fecundated ovum, and then to say you had to protect it, and if you did anything to compromise it, you were killing a person, and so therefore you should go to jail. So I came up with, on behalf of the member I was working with, Zoe Lofgren, who was from California at the time, the Motherhood Protection Act. And what it did was, it didn't require that the ovum be a person. What it said was, if a woman was pregnant, whether the assailant knew it or not, there was an enhancement to the punishment. And it was to give Democrats a way to say, look, we care about women too, but we're not going to buy into some religious fiction and make it a civil law to the detriment of a woman's right to choose. So this is similar to that. It's going to run a cropper in the Senate unless somebody lights a fire under the hindquarters of several of our recalcitrant Democrats and gets rid of cloture, the 60-vote supermajority presently required. The reports out of the White House about the request from the House are things like, we're leaning on producing it. No, you're not leaning, you're enthusiastic to comply. And, you know, I always talk about Seneca, one of my favorite poets, Roman senator, some years ago. And he was of the view the fates lead you to your destiny or drag you to it. Well, I'm afraid if the Democrats, including Biden, whom I support 100%, but I have a right to be critical of them, they got to speak out on this stuff. They can't be dragged to this, because if they are, we're going to find that they can't do any more dragging or be dragged, because we won't have the House or the Senate under almost control by the Democrats. So keep that in mind. Finally, those of you out there who think you're going to get 5 gigabytes up and down on your telephones or your TVs or your various electronic items, let me give you a very fast run through. When you're streaming movies and TV and things like that, that's the down bandwidth. Now, so you can probably get that with, 12, 16, 18 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes, thousands. And so these millibytes, not gigabytes, are good enough for that. But then there's a trail that goes up. We can send a signal up. And you know what that is? It's like 2 megabytes, at least if you're rural. So how do you get anything like really fast? Well, you need fiber optic. And there are a couple of other ways you can do it in the air. But fiber optic it's like lightning fast. It's the only way you can increase the speed. Now, offshore, people have figured this out. People are domestically selling us on 5G. It's here now. Well, it's not 5G. It's not 5 gigabytes. It's 5th generation, I guess. And the 5th generation is not as fast as a gigabyte. And so be careful when you think you're buying, say, a gigabyte up and down, because what you're really buying is you're buying 5G generation electronics, which may not be that fast. So keep that in mind. I had to revisit this issue because when Holly and I were up in Maine, I was trying to arrange to use some place up there to make an appearance on the show. And I investigated what Spectrum, which was the leading provider up there, had. And this is what I found. And basically said, well, because we're cable, our limit is something like 26 megabytes up. So nothing like a gigabyte going up. So 5G, think generation, not gigabyte. And really, if it's important to you that you have that kind of throughput, find out what they're actually giving you, because they're about to sell you this stuff. And it's a lot of BS, technologically. So, see you around campus. Tomorrow is Sunday. We'll probably talk to John later today about what great things we're going to do on our show on the level tomorrow. And I hope you'll join us. All the best. Bye-bye.